Everybody makes YouTube videos in their own particular way. The simplest way to make a YouTube video is to pull out your camera or pull out your smartphone, press record, and off you go. Everything beyond that, from effects to editing, is just making the video better. Some people want to make a professional career out of making YouTube videos. As a result, they have more disposable income that they can use on considerably nicer cameras. When I upgraded from 720 by 480 to 1920 by 1080, I went from a mini DV system to solid-state Canon T3i digital SLRs, which record in a video mode. There are proper video-specific cameras that you can get from Canon. Again, they're very expensive. T3i's now are 10 years old, and I can trust that the quality of the recordings that I'm getting out of them, with the exception of some weird brightness and gain issues. I'm not really sure yet. I've probably misconfigured something. But the point is, they're cheap cameras. I spent $2,000 and upgraded everything. New audio recording equipment, new lenses, new cameras. But they have a flaw. There's this thing Canon has, and other people have talked about it before, called the 12-minute limit. The 12-minute limit means that when you start a video recording, after 12 minutes, come hell or high water, that camera is going to stop recording at 12 minutes. This requires you to go and restart the recording. This can be frustrating if you like doing run-on videos. I'm quite bad for doing it myself, where you'll be recording something and then it'll just stop and you won't actually catch it. If you have a video display, there is a red dot in the corner that tells you that it's recording. There is at the very top a little counter which says how much time has elapsed since you started the recording. And I have a bunch of video displays in front of me right now, in front of this camera, which lets me see all of that. But at the same time, I don't use scripts. So I have to think in my head and recite a whole bunch of knowledge and information on whatever subject I'm talking about. I have to maintain my orientation with 3 different cameras, and somehow I can't be caught staring at these displays below the camera, which have the counter on them. So I needed a way to remove that last step there, where I was having to identify where the counter is on the screen, recognize how much time has elapsed, and then at the same time still keep going in my head how much time I have left without interrupting my train of thought. I needed some sort of visual indication. This is my source of visual indication for how much time I have left over on my camera. By the way, it's worth pointing out at this time, I understand one of the solutions people have come up with regarding dealing with the 12-minute limit on T3i's and other Canon DSLRs is Magic Lantern firmware. So I'm more than aware of it. People have told me about it multiple times now. But the reality is, I've worked with the T3i and Canon's menu system for so long now, I am not willing to reflash the firmware on my cameras for one extra feature at all. Furthermore, I don't want to risk bricking the firmware on any of my cameras. One, because the T3i is no longer a warranty serviceable device, and 2, I don't want to deal with the crap that is I'm down a camera until I can figure out a way to unbrick it, if that's possible at all. So I have to deal with the 12-minute limit. This indicator here has 3 indicators on it: a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. It also has 2 buttons on it, a start button and a stop button. The idea here is that when I start my videos, I just simply hit the start button, and I'll be able to then do my cueing, start talking, and this thing can just live out of the way near my cameras. I don't need to keep an eye on it. As long as it's in my peripheral vision, I can clearly see that that light is still green. And after 5 minutes, that light is going to switch over to yellow. The yellow light indicates that we have now done just about 6 minutes, up to 10 minutes. I'm still good to continue talking about whatever I'm doing. But if it's going to be a lengthy explanation, or it's going to be something detailed where I don't want to break it up into multiple pieces, now is a good time for me to go and just stop the video recording, hit the stop button on here, restart all of my video and audio recorders, and hit the start button on this thing again. Once you get to the, oh, and there's the yellow light right there, so I know I'm halfway through this recording on this session right now. But once we get to the red light at the top, that means that 10 minutes have elapsed. I have 2 minutes to finish whatever I'm doing, or if I'm about to get into something very complicated, hold what I'm doing, stop the video there, restart the video, restart the timer, and continue on what I'm doing, because then I have at least 12 more minutes to do whatever the heck complicated thing is about to come up. This is a very practical device. It runs on 120 volts. It is fuse protected, and it does have a master power switch on it because that's all I could find with these kinds of connectors. The enclosure itself is built out of a weatherproof electrical box that I didn't have a lid for, and just a piece of wood that I've put on top here, which replaces the lid that I don't have. The indicator itself I bought off of AliExpress. They're available in 24 volts, 124 volts, and 240 volts. This is the 120 volt model. When I open this up, I shouldn't be doing this while it's live because it is 120 volts in there. But if I take that off, there's the LEDs. This is all 120 volts. There's a little tiny switch in there as well. Do I have a plastic object I can touch that with? I do not have a plastic object nearby that I can touch that with. If I flick that, I can make any of the indicators on here flash. I don't need flashing, but these here are dim enough as they are, if I can get it to snap back in, there we go, that I can be doing something in a low light environment, and it's not going to be reflecting off of me. It's not going to be distracting. Why can I not get this back on? Because it's supposed to go over there. There you go. It's almost perfect. And there's no other replacement for this that I can find. Like if I want to get timer countdown lights like AliExpress or specialty devices, I haven't found anything like this. It's really down to earth. It's simple. Now, the other solution here is obviously I have a physical counter, but again, that goes back down to the fact that that means I have to recognize numbers while I'm doing other things in my head. I wouldn't say that I'm preemptive multitasking. Maybe it's micromanaging multitasking in my head. With those as well, there's also YouTube videos which will let me do a 12-minute countdown as well, which is as ridiculous as it is. I find it funny as well is that when you look at the previews for many of these videos, they all aren't synchronized. Like, I don't need like an intro or an outro. I don't need fancy colors in the background. I just need a countdown. And like I said before, let's not introduce numbers into the mix because that's just one more thing that I have to process in my head that tells me, okay, what is a 6? Oh, a 6 is, see, I can't even do it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the idea. So instead, I'm just like, oh, yellow. Okay, I still have a couple more minutes here before it's going to switch over to red. Keep going. We're good. We got the recording straight down pat. There we go. And with the magic of editing, the light has now gone red. I'm running out of time to continue talking about this and stalling for the light to go red. So there we go. Now, at any time as well, once I've hit the start button, like it's going to continue going. But as soon as I hit the stop button, it'll reset itself and shut itself off. Just like that. All right, enough stalling time. Let's open this thing up so I can actually explain to you how I designed this. Now, with only 3 output states on here, you could very easily just have a microcontroller set up with 3 outputs. The idea is that you power the microcontroller, you push the button, a counter starts, output 1 operates, that closes 1 relay. Counter continues for a predetermined amount of time, opens that relay, and then closes the next relay, and it does it simultaneously. And then you go on to the next one, where it then again opens the yellow relay, closes the red relay, lights that up, because that's all 120 volts, not 24. And then finally, when the time has finally expired, it just turns itself off completely. Fairly straightforward. The thing is, So I have a bit of an admission of guilt here. I don't know actually how to program. Worse than that also when it comes to designing hardware, I don't really like to keep schematics as well. There's a lot of trial and error and keeping things in my head, which is a terrible thing to be telling people. But as a result, like things like this get made, and all I can do is just visually demonstrate to you how it's done. It's not like the dim bulb tester where it's a simple device that's been done to death. Like that I can tell this is the first of its kind. I doubt it's the first of its kind. So all the screws are out. We're going to open it up. I've unplugged it, by the way. And inside, we can see there is no microcontroller in here at all. we have our 2 buttons, we have 2 micro switches, we have a relay, and we have 3 knockoff Omron dial programmable timer relays. There is no transformers in here. There's no DC in this thing at all. This thing runs completely off of AC power. The idea is power comes in and it comes up to the switch up here, the start button. The idea is that when you push the start button, you are energizing the coil in the relay down here. When you energize this coil, that closes the double contacts in here. There's actually 4 contacts in here. And one of those sets of contacts is just full-time AC power, which then latches and holds closed this relay. This then supplies power to our first timer. These timer modules, by the way, I love them because you can just kind of unplug them and they're highly serviceable, they're highly replaceable. Some people like the digital displays. Believe me, the dials on here drove me crazy when I was getting these to be the perfect times. You can plug it in, so this gets power. This here closes a set of contacts, if I recall off the top of my head. No, it keeps a set of contacts closed when it's normally closed, and that operates the green light on the indicator. After our first couple of minutes here, this times out, closes its contacts, switches over to this one here by applying power now to that extra set of contacts to this one. When these contacts here switch, the closed contacts go normally open, the green light turns out, the yellow light, because this is now powered, turns on instantaneously. And it's the same circuit between these two here. So you have your first timeout, your second timeout, and then finally on this one here, it gets a little bit more interesting. This is only 2 minutes, remember. It's doing the same thing. Yellow light goes out, red light turns on. But when this times out, all it's doing is opening the contact that turns this light off. But at the same time, the contact that's normally closed is AC power, which keeps this relay latched. So it essentially commits suicide and turns itself off, at which point it's in an off state. And that same AC loop that holds this relay energized and closed is also part of the stop circuit here. This just goes open when you push the button down. It breaks the circuit. It shuts itself off. No microcontrollers, no fuss. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. It works, and I love it. And that's how I do my videos and make sure that I am able to, first off, tuck all my cables in carefully here, how I am able to make sure that when I record a video, my mind is more occupied on what I'm talking about rather than how much time I have left to talk about it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I really like talking about some of the devices I like to build from time to time, either to help myself or to help other people. If you wish to patent this design, whatever, I don't care. If you are inspired to make one of these yourself, go for it. I recommend it. Just be aware, it's 120 volts. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And until next time, have a good one.